Down and Dirty. Tips and tricks for keeping your plane out of the shop. Starring Steve's Dirty Hands. Today, it's got stars. You can add your own stripes. Okay, we got the first cut on the wings here. It goes from 1/2 to 10.5 inches. That's 2 inches per stripe. And we're ready to put them on the booms. So these are the booms. On the P-38, the way that the thing flies is this is level at the top, or theoretically supposed to be. So in the design, everything drops down perpendicular from that to be visually pleasing. You can see that they already did that with their little lines on everything. So we're just going to figure out where 10 inches worth of stripes goes and then put it there. Now, a good logical place to start on a design like this, if you ask me, would be the front edge of that, which would make at least that much of it really easy to paint. You just paint up to the edge, right? So then that line continues around from here to here, and it also makes it easier to draw. Then we need a line 10 inches from there, back of here, right? And then we'll paint our white base coat. Before we paint the white base coat, what I think we'll do on this one is put a piece of tape across here and then paint black inside.
Paint it black, you devil!
And paint black inside from the back. And then put the white base coat on. So these things help make it real easy for us to make a straight stripe. We're going to take a straight edge and put it right against the front edge of this thing. And then just move back and forth until it's visually straight. So that this part is a straight line visually to you, the observer. And then you just take a pin and put it visually into the same spot right at the edge of the ruler as you see it, right? And then between those 2 points, you can make a line. Once again, I keep the thing visually straight for me so that I can see the hole right at the edge of the ruler, and then track that so that my point where it hits the fuselage is running visually right along the edge of the ruler, like that, right? So now I've made a line that is straight, like that. I'm going to do the same thing up to the top. So we're going to put the ruler at the front edge of this baby, and then visually locate the center of that line at the top and the bottom by putting these pins right at the edge of the ruler from my viewpoint. I got one eye closed. And then holding the ruler straight the same way, I stick a pin in the bottom so I can see the pin right at the edge of the ruler. Once again, I have one eye closed. Now that, in theory, should give me a line that goes straight through that baby. So let's check it from the other side and see what that looks like. I'd say that looks pretty darn straight the same way. So now we have to just visually trace that line around so that it looks straight from over here. Not that hard to do. I take another pin and I line this up. I got one eye closed. I don't know if the camera is in the spot where my eye is. I doubt it. But I visually trace this line so that it touches the fuselage right at the edge of the ruler according to my viewpoint. And that looks pretty darn good. And I do the same thing on the top and the other side. So keep that so that I'm looking at these pins right at the edge of the ruler, and then trace this line so that the point meets the fuselage. How's that line look? Pretty good. Okay, now same treatment on this here side. I visually line up my ruler with my pins and then visually make a mark that looks straight from my vantage point on the fuselage. There we go. Before we go any further, I'm just going to make an indentation where this line is, right, by rolling this ruler edge like so, so that I have a clear indentation at the edge of my white stripe for me to follow. And like so. Nice. Alright, so this is just a metal edge ruler you do this with. There we are. Very nice. Okay, so now I got an indentation that runs right around the fuselage, right at the end of the white stripe. Now we make another one. Right, so I measured back That's 10 inches back, right? And I'm going to eyeball it so that it's parallel with this line here. And that would make my bottom pin here. Now, scratch a line in it. Or you can use a pencil. So I'm angling this rod so that I can see where the tip hits the foam, and so that it's dragging at an angle like this. You don't want to push it point first into the foam. That would make it rather difficult. There we go. All right. It's light, but I can see it. There's my first line. The other way of doing these points visually is to simply go between the scoops, right? So you line up right at the front edge of both scoops and then score that visually across the piece of the fuselage, right? Like so, and like so. And then there we are, straight line between the two tops.